Hey, okay, so I'm sorry. Like I said, I've been wired. I'm kind of on one. I'm trying to like strike the iron while it's hot in a couple of different ways. And so please let me know if I'm overwhelming you with way too much information. I'm not looking for like responses right away, but I definitely want to share because I know that it can be helpful to anyone, for someone. I know that we've been doing a lot of back and forth and stuff, and I know that you have some things growing and sowing. And so, and we're working on some things together. And so, so I wanted to kind of show you some things. I had shared on the platform here just a little while ago. Somebody had said something about time blindness, not time blindness. She said out of sight, out of mind, to which I did a remix about my time blindness and the fact that I have like 3 calendars, a weekly spread, a fourth calendar, a watch that tells some random time, a clock that says some other random time, a clock in my bathroom that says some other random time, and the only right-ish time is on my phone, just so I'm not late to things, and I still don't know what day it is sometimes. And then all of that to realize like there's some stuff that I really need to get in place in terms of system and content creation and blah blah blah, whatever. So that's where this thing comes in. This is like an actual like erasable monthly calendar, and instead of using it like the month, since I already have 3 of them, I'm using this one as like a content creation work flow, content creation like schedule board, right? And because I have these different businesses or brands that I want to develop, then each of those one lines are for that. And then I can like decide what I want to focus on in terms of the content pillars for each day, right? So these up here are like the overarching pillars, right? And this is actually the system pillar for all of the areas that have work there. So there's school of work, bodies of work, style work, and ultra black. Ultra black obviously is not like directly, but indirectly, because this is going to be used for Black Business Directory, which on Instagram right now is the WERK Life Incorporated Society, that I want to be able to build out, and likely will be showcasing different Black owned, minority owned businesses. And so I'm thinking that that week or this block will be set up in the same way for that, right? So I came up with these will be like more specific ideas for the content pillars, right? So this week I put my Saturdays and Sundays together, because usually when you see it on a calendar, they put Saturdays and Sundays together because oftentimes people don't do much on Saturdays and Sundays. But for me, I have to also still, for ADHD reasons, but for a lot of like other reasons, I put them together in a different way where I do a rest and reset. I do my rest on Saturdays also because I do worship on the Sabbath rather than on Sunday, and it just also makes a whole lot more sense because usually on Sundays I'm doing my reset and getting ready for the rest of the week, and I cannot rest and reset on the same day. I want to rest and I want to have the whole day to like do resting things, right? And my resting doesn't necessarily always mean like not doing anything, but it's intentional action, effortless action, which actually is practiced principles on Wednesdays, because Wednesdays are for Wu Wei Wednesdays. Wu Wei meaning effortless action, but also a play on Wu Tang, because they're like my favorite rap group of all times. And this day was actually initially called Wei, W-E-I, back Wednesday, so that I could kind of reference, some of my favorite, old school music, but also probably focusing on like old school hip hop music, kind of centered around that whole Wu-Tang era. But they also follow this because of their philosophy and how they manage and all of that. That's a completely different aside. That's not where I was going with that, but that's kind of just the background from that. But anyway, so my rest and reset days. which is where the re-up came from, because I was like, okay, this is the day that I'm actually going to be doing all of those things, right? I'm re-ing up. So this is like a weekly thing. This is a bi-weekly thing. This will probably also be like a weekly thing. And so like each brand has its own set of things. I'm guessing that these will have like platforms associated, but right now these are just still more general. So I'm still working on drilling down the best way to showcase some of this information. But right now this is just like to move it around and to get the information there. And then I actually have a template for content creation and scheduling a little bit more in detail in my Notion that looks a little bit like this and actually shows like more detail of what things go where on what days, what kind of content is on there, the tags that are associated. And those tags are actually going to be hashtags later on. And I'm not as concerned about the popular hashtags as much as I'm concerned about the hashtags that actually fit with what I'm doing, because sometimes I have a hashtag that works with what I'm doing but doesn't have a whole lot of posts, which for me says I can actually use that as my thing because it's not overly saturated with like millions of people doing it, so I can actually run it and it become mine. That's kind of how I'm viewing those things. It might be a little bit backwards, but I'm not really a crowds person, so that's kind of the approach that I've been taking a lot of those things. It seems a little backwards in the way of like running on algorithms and things like that, but like I said, I'm not really into crowds in any capacity. So even in social media, when there's a huge crowd, while I pay attention to it because it's meaningful to me to get in front of as many people as possible, it's also even more meaningful that I make my own lane, right? Because again, I hate a crowd. So then the pillars, just to be reminded of what each of these things are: worship for what's your why, execute for execution and exercise, but also mental health, because Tuesday is Take Care Tuesdays. And although for me personally, in my personal life, I use these days for like taking personal days to take care of myself, and I do mental health stuff on this day, I also am wanting to focus a little bit more on the intimate mental things to take care of myself on these days, which includes exercise, which, I mean, it's probably repetitive what I just said, but I say that because this day this is Wu Wei Wednesday, which focuses on effortless action, which on the refine and rendering day for me is mostly about personal and professional development. And a lot of the time when we think about personal development, we think about mental health, we think about all of that. But for me, I'm thinking personal development in terms of like building relationships. So all of the things that we've done for ourselves to take care of ourselves on these days, we're actually putting into effortless action on this day to build relationships in our personal and professional lives that allow us to then move into our kingship pillar, which is more about marriage and family, business and legacy. I call it Throwback Thursday, which, you know, it gives reference to legacy. And, you know, obviously all of these things are intertwined because I'm a person that very readily believes that how you do anything is the way you do everything, but also you are everywhere you go. You are the least common denominator or the greatest common factor in all of your failed and successful relationships. And so if you're doing this type of work on a regular basis, then you will be successful in your life, which is on Friday. And the Funky Fresh Friday will be, you know, also kind of going in. I'm an 80s/90s baby, right? So like everything about this is about to be, you know, focused in like old school hip hop, old school R&B. So in the way that some of these would also obviously already have their own hashtags for throw it back for these type of things, like I think all of them will have a little bit of that. But Funky Fresh, depending on the brand, will definitely be focused in more specifically. So like style work is more of a lifestyle brand. So the Funky Fresh will probably be like a laundry day, right? Whereas like bodies of work or ultra black will be more focused on like, I don't actually even know yet, but this is just kind of what I have for that. So like, if anybody has any ideas about the things that can go and be associated with Funky Fresh as it relates to School of Work, Bodies of Work, Style Work, and Ultra Black. School of Work was basically like really drilling down on the pillars of work life. Bodies of Work, which is focused more on the wellness of the body, spiritual wellness, emotional wellness, social wellness, body positivity, that type of stuff. Labor equality, like all of those things. Style work is really about image and personal style, and then Ultra Black is about like for us, by us, period. And then the rest and reset, as I said before. And then I actually still wanted to have something that was a little bit more business oriented in terms of admin. Personally, in my personal life, I'm actually doing a lot of my business admin on these days. I'm doing board meetings on these days. I'm doing some batch recording and bulk creation on these days, or bulk creation planning on these days. Any and all kinds of planning usually is happening on this day. And so I definitely wanted to keep that as separate, because also during these days, outside of the summertime, I'm a teacher. So I don't actually have time during the week to actually focus as much on my business as I'd like to, because I'm also a mom. So like that is like a bodies of work thing. So if it's any kind of business admin marketing type of thing that I'm gonna be focused on, it's mostly gonna be in this area here, because that's where most of my creation is going to be made, just for the simple fact that like that's my life, that's kind of my wheelhouse, that's where I'm living in my life right now. And so that's where most of where the creation is going to be built in and out of, and then hopefully can be broken down and repurposed into the other areas as appropriate. So I wanted to make sure that I like shared that, but I also want to share the Notion page that I have associated with this board as well. This particular calendar is separate from the June calendar that I have over here. This June calendar is really for like real-time appointments, and because I'm sitting here at this desk like this, it's a little bit easier for me to see this in this way, but I didn't want to muddy this one up with all of the like content holiday things that I wanted to focus on. And so I just devoted this calendar for like celebrations, holidays, awarenesses, right, during that time. So that's what that's for, and that kind of correlates to that. And then this is just to be like looking forward at a glance. And then this is probably not the best place to put this, because the space that I have is so small. And so I have a piece of like plexiglass on top of here, which protects this piece of paper from getting like stains and stuff on here, because I also eat here sometimes, and I drink my liquids in here sometimes. And so I don't want to get the paper messed up, and I hate like dog-eared paper. So it keeps it nice and flat and like looking neat and stuff. So there's that. And then also these little things here, when I talk to my therapist, I actually use these sticky notes to like help me focus on the main goals of the things that I want to work on. And this is probably not one of those things, but this is probably that. It used to be like a particular color, and now that I have these in all different colors, this is probably going to need to be somewhere else, or like entirely, for me to be able to see and actually pay attention to that, because it doesn't jump out of my face. And so likely it's going to become one of those things that are out of sight, out of mind again, and then defeats the entire purpose of having a system in place to getting things done that are like right in my face. So realizing now that I'm probably going to use this space for like real-time goal setting, because obviously this space, and it's not completely bare. Usually my display, kind of creeps into there, but like this is as far as it goes. So then I only really have this space available, which is totally fine, and then that space that's available for that. I'll probably keep the rulers out of the way and just use that space for it, so that I can actually have like a to-do space that can be utilized and viewed, whether I'm standing here in front of it like this or sitting at my desk, and then I can just glance over at it for that reason. So I just wanted to take some time and share kind of what I have going on here. And I think I have a video. If I don't, I will also share a video of my content calendar. And then in the near future, very, very soon, is currently what I'm working on, is a tool set or a automated system through Zapier to actually start filtering in all of my badge content into my Notion, that will then be scheduled through Zapier and interfaces out into the social media platforms, and then start getting that momentum going. So if you have any ideas about how I can like best utilize this, and so I can like lean and trust the system that I currently have to make that flow go a little bit faster, I'm totally down for like any and all feedback.